Well, hello, everybody. Good evening, good morning, good everything, wherever in the beautiful world you are. I hope my internet is fine. It's showing me a weak signal. My voice is also somewhat weak tonight. I had my 40th school reunion this past
Oh,
weekend. So, so as you can imagine, we laughed and laughed and laughed and caught up. It was really, really cool. So, yeah, my voice is sounding a bit croaky, but that's okay because you're actually here to listen to our awesome, amazing Tuesday guest, Tom Althouse. How are you, Tom? Welcome.
I'm fired up. I feel really good. I mean, there's so much happening. I just wrote a correspondent in London saying, it's like we're facing mountains of work, but we have the ability, to come together in the middle, a shovelful at a time. We work through it and come together, and it's exciting. We can celebrate together, having tackled those mountains, and it's for good causes, each in our respective way. So I'm excited that people are active and getting work done, and they're not overwhelmed by the load because there's a lot of work to do these days.
Mm, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and I think what's really cool with you is that we can, being the creator of the Matrix, we can understand what's happening
Mhm.
um, through your eyes, so to speak, right? Which is amazing. And I think quite in line with our topic tonight on churches or, yeah, celebrity pastors and their churches. So, yeah, I'd love to hear. I mean, I've got a lot to say on that because for a long time now we know that pastors and churches generally can be, I'm not saying all, very, very dodgy. We know that a lot of the crap that occurs with the rituals and the sacrifices and things is in fact taking place in a lot of churches, although that's on a different level.
Mhm.
But we know that these guys have got to get their front guys, right? The
Mhm.
ones in the front, the puppets, they've got to be the diversion for whatever is going on there. So
Yeah.
I'd love to hear what you have to say about that. So I want to just say hello to everyone. Mary, Alka, Jan, Karen, Helwig. Always good to see you guys. Thanks for
Yes.
joining us.
Yes, and thanks for the encouragement too, to Shanti and myself both, and that's been levied throughout the weeks and stuff. It's just really, really appreciated because
Yeah.
this is not an easy trail. We all have our journeys, and they all have their challenges. And yeah, in ours, you have a lot of people coming our way, and it's nice to have those that support and lift along that journey, and we can smile and laugh with you and exchange wisdom and thoughts with each other and learn from each other. So I appreciate that aspect. But as far as the pastors at the church, I just ran into one the other day, and I think what's happened, if take Christianity for example, if Christians are going to, and I count myself among this, if we're going to lead the way through our writings and everything else, we should be showing an example of embracing and lifting, not condemning, and especially not getting immersed in a celebrity culture way of life. We shouldn't be following the model of who we're trying to reach by following their model. And that's what's happening. Our church system, I think, and I think I can say this pretty much as an authority on it, having come from Pat Robertson's group and all these other groups, I often see where the pastor is made into an idol. When a pastor walks up, like the one that did yesterday at this Baptist church, he walked up with a presence. I can read people. It was steeped with, I have been adored. I have self-importance, almost like cloaked insecurities with a superiority thing over it. That's how he approached me. I could read it right away when he came up to me. And the first thing he said to me is, why aren't you in my church? And he was surprised at the answer. See, what's going on is, before I go to the answer, is, and I'll go back to you first too, is that this feeling that congregations are feeding, it's like codependent. The congregations often are feeding this idea of trying to support the church by supporting the pastor in this adore him, lift
Mm,
him, make him feel great. It's not helping. These pastors often turn it into a Hollywood style church situation where they then expect that their audience wants them to perform, and that they'll, it's important about the numbers being adored. And if my feeling was, if Christ walked up to a church in his attire from the time, he'd be turned away while they're preaching his message. They turn him away because it would not make the pastor look good. It wouldn't help his image to have the Christ there. You know what I'm saying? And that's
Yeah.
what happens. Prophets will come to their doors and they'll be turned away because we don't want to upset our congregation. We don't want to make it look a little bit, we want to keep things as it is. Keep it nice. And you end up with some of these churches where you'll read this response. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't read these responses. It'll be like, forgive me, Lord, for I have sinned, for we have sinned the way of the Lord. Forgive me, Lord, for forgive me, Lord. These rote response things are not doing anything with the heart. It's a group responding that Orrin Wells would be, pleased to see, and going like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. This group response thing. It's about the heart. It's about the person being ministered to. A pastor is to minister to his congregation, not be there to receive all the adoration and rewards of being a celebrity. Let that sink in to you, Shanti.
And that's what's happened. That's what's happening a lot over the years. More and more, we're seeing it, right? We're seeing more of these charismatic pastors who are up there doing the whole rah-rah thing and have thousands and thousands of adoring fans in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like I don't even know what to call it. Like a hero worship type thing.
It's a personality cult. And what happens is, and I saw this with Roberts and everything, and they get you behind closed doors when some find out, oh, yeah, you wrote this thing, right? You wrote The Matrix. Oh, you're a celebrity. And it's like, that's not what it's about. It's not about, for my situation, it's not about Tom Althouse going, look what I done. Look what I did. Look what I did. If this was written for God's glory and they took it and rearranged it for themselves, first of all, it's not about me. It's about restoring the work to give the glory to God as it was written to do. And eyes off of me and onto the work is what's important. If it's all eyes on me, as Sophia Stewart calls her company, the one that claims to be the mother of the Matrix that was part of this process of ripping it off, all eyes on me, producer, director, writer. If it's all eyes on me, Sophia Stewart, who calls me all the time to harass, then it's not about the work. And the work is diminished. So what I set out to do to reach a world to help the children, the elderly, and respect restored, bring us together to help each other is destroyed by me focusing on me. These pastors will not have me talk. I have not found a pastor yet. They'll talk about the Matrix and they'll be proud to talk about the atheist version and the atheists that made it, but they won't talk about the original writer. When you meet them and show them the evidence and everything else, they get scared. You see who's really under that bravado of importance and adore me. Adore me. You know the look when you see it. Adore me. I'm so great. That's what you're getting. That's not what I'm going to show you. That's not what it's about. So a pastor who does what I just said, focuses on themselves rather than the work of ministering to the flock and the congregation, is taking the eyes off the work and the eyes off of God and putting it on themselves. Shame on you, pastors, who get in closed sessions with me and tell me how women in this congregation are hitting on them. I've heard this a number of times. Hitting on them when they come for counseling. And they like it. They like the attention. Oh, they can't help themselves. Yeah, I could do the same thing. It's not about that. It's about the message, the children, the congregation, ministering, putting it on the work that changes things. I'm very passionate about it because I saw it yesterday. I saw that pastor ran off, locked himself in an office when I said there's a responsibility for somebody to come forward and say, here's the real work. He saw the copyright, he saw the inserts, he saw the matchups, and he ran because it wouldn't work well with his congregation, not because it would affect them twisting messages or disturb them. It would inflict on his popularity with his congregation. That's what.
Absolutely, because you see now you're being called up, or he would be called up to stand up against the narrative that they're pushing, right?
Which could affect it.
When we're looking at the church mentality, we're looking at the matrix. It's all part of the matrix. That you hooked into this control, subtle mind control. I think we even called it the BITE model. I think it's called the BITE model. I know we've spoken about it before. Literally, the way the church actually does the controlling, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, finish.
No, carry on.
We're locked into that. We're locked into, that's what I'm trying to convey is exactly what you're saying. The church today, by and large, across the board, every time I've come in contact with these different pastors from different denominations, different walks, different faiths, they all seem to fit the bill of fitting the model of Hollywood. They have absorbed the model of being a celebrity. And they tell me that. They said, wow, if we ever did this, you'd be, your life be over as you know it. It's like you're a celebrity. Women are going to be falling all over you. What does a pastor have with saying women are going to be falling all over you? What does that tell you about the pastors that I've come across?
Yeah. But I think also, what we're hearing more and more, especially when we're looking at these, as I like to call them, charismatic churches, the ones that aren't really the traditional churches where you get these pastors. I don't know I know you guys have got a lot there. And I know Hillsong was called out in Australia, especially not too long ago, for trafficking, that sort of stuff. Let's just leave it there. And I know, we have also our charismatic churches as well. Our very well-known pastor, Ray McCauley, I don't even know where he is nowadays, but also has had a lot of, shenanigans in the church and divorces and young wives and affairs and all sorts of things. But I think, Tom, I actually watched something a while ago where one of these things, when I was doing some research on this as well, where they were saying that on a Saturday night, usually, let's say the church sermon is on a Sunday morning, on a Saturday night, they will go in there and do all sorts of rituals and things, literally waiting for the gullible people to arrive the next morning, and obviously then wreak havoc spiritually with them in whichever way they do it, right? And I also know on good authority that I'm not quite sure how to call these people, but basically these guys are sent into churches to turn people. And these guys will literally smell the iniquity, if you will, in the spirit. So they literally lure them in. They will test them with sex, money, and obviously fame, right? The three lower vibrating demons, if you want to call it that humanity has. So many of these pastors, they are absolutely lured in, they are turned, and they are twisted to work for the other side, but that's only because they can be twisted, right? And they can be turned. If they're in their integrity, that's never going to happen. But this is happening a lot. We hear of this more and more.
We live in a narcissistic society sculpted by Hollywood, really we do. Hollywood with the agencies have crafted this strategically to turn the world into a narcissistic, self-absorbed, and fearful. And so it really, that's the narcissist agenda of narcissism. The deal with narcissists, what you do is you speak a blatant, honest truth and keep a distance from them. And so by speaking a blatant truth, it is a separate way of presenting yourself than trying to get people to like you, or trying to be focused on the numbers of your membership and things like that. It's an important topic because the world's not going to right itself through any group unless that group takes its eyes off itself. It's got to be eyes off ourselves. Remember Sophia Stewart's company? Like I said, the mother claims to be the mother matrix. All eyes on her. All eyes on me as her company. I said that's just the opposite. We've got to put it on the work. And one of the things that you can get with a narcissist is you'll see they're not about action. They're about their words. Words are cheap. It's the actions we do. And Christ talked about that too, about, if you can't judge me basically by what I say, then judge me by what I do, by my works, what I've done. That's really should be the measure. He showed us that. That's the measure.
Yeah.
So it's just, I see these churches with these PR departments. Why do you need a PR staff? Think of it. What's the answer? Now, one could say, I love your smart chat too. It's great. The people making the chats. I love watching these. And hello, Bets from England, South England. So it's like, what you have is, what's the purpose of a PR department in a church? Let's see. let's flesh it out. Get the numbers up, get more income, be more popular, fill the pew.
Absolutely.
What's the PR's purpose? Why does
Wow.
Pat Robertson, when he was walking around here, have this guy, David Gyertson, who brags about bringing billions in for Pat Robertson? He's all these consulting projects with Hollywood, and works in Hollywood with Pat Robertson to get him money and cover up his things. A PR department really shouldn't be in the picture if you're there simply to serve and be open on who you are, presenting who you are. A PR department would say to me that the only function you really serve in the end is to cover things up and to create an image of the person you're presenting. But why would you
That's really what it is. It's the public relations. So, I mean, I can understand you would need to have someone that's maybe a spokesperson for the church, right? Where, if you've got to talk to someone or whatever, there would be someone that can liaise, right? But to actually have a PR department who's actually pumping up your image, creating logos and all sorts of social media, what have you. I mean, I think it's great to spread the word to your congregation, to engage your congregation in whichever way is necessary. But it's another thing when and it's so true that you've got to have a PR department that is now promoting your church. I mean, and there again, why would you want to promote your church and not the church down the road from you? Because at the end of the day, it shouldn't make a difference, right?
That's right.
Church is supposed to be the house of the Lord. Yeah.
That's right. It's not competition. They are part of a ministry. That's what it is. And there's a comment. I think Jan said it. The Holy Spirit should be speaking through the minister. Yes, we are to humble ourselves and let the Lord speak through us if we actually believe what God told us, what Christ told us. Let the Lord speak through us. It's not about us. And the more they focus on us, the less they're going to hear God. And that's the thing. Like I was thinking about when a pastor walked, like it said something about remove the log from your eye. I never understood it as a kid. Remove the log from your eye, then you can minister to the person. It's like, if you've got your focus on yourself, you got a log in the eye. You got to focus on, you're looking at yourself. You got to focus on, if you're focused on yourself, you can't help anybody. Because it's going to be read at some level, at some cellular level, it's going to be read that you're on yourself. You're not there to help people,
Absolutely.
And it's so sad because I've seen things where people go up and say, I'm dying of cancer. And they almost check it off like, wow, okay, I'll say the right thing and then I'll move on from that. Because I took care of that. I knocked it off the list. But the thing is, when a pastor walks up to you, check it for yourselves. If a pastor walks up to you, read what you see. It's okay to do it. Read what you see. Do you see this? Expectation, anticipation of being adored and honored. And you have to use my title. I am not Tom Althouse. I am Pastor Tom Althouse. Thank you. Welcome to my church. Hi. This image, you know what it feels like. You know what it looks like. And they know there's a cheering squad behind them. That's not a fun place to be. If someone walks up to you who's a pastor and you don't even know they're a pastor because of the way they're presenting themselves, I say that's a good thing. If they walk up like this, so, hi, how are you? Who are you? That's so nice to meet you. Yeah. Tell me about yourself. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. My kids are, if they don't get to being a pastor in their conversation out of the gates, that's a good thing. If they're simply talking to you as a person who cares about a person, rather than coming up with the opening of, leading off with, hi, I'm Pastor Marks, and this is my congregation. Yeah. Hi. And then they have the look of, bring it on, pile it on. You like the way I look? I'm a good guy. I'm of God. I know. I get it all the time. And if we go in the back room, I'll tell you how the women hit on me all the time because I am the guy. Yeah, my membership's growing too. It's about to 5,000. It's going to hit 7,000 soon. Yeah. Pastor Marks, nice to meet you. That's what you get. That's what you get. And that is a wrong. X that off. That is wrong. I'd like to see women that are pretty go into a pastor's chamber and do this across the country and start going like, you got a wart on your nose. Yeah. Well, you're not that good looking, but I'm sure your message is good. You want to see the guys get in line? Then he'll concentrate on his message so the women will like him when they come in his room.
Yeah. Wow.
Maybe it'll work. Isn't that sad? We have to put diapers on our pastors in order for them to do the actual work they're supposed to do, rather than looking for their next treat and next nollie and next sucker.
But
It's like,
don't you think, but Tom, don't you think that whether, I mean, irrespective of whether these guys are actively working for the dodgy side right now, or whether they are just ignorant, right? And as you say, maybe the guy that you showed your script to and said, okay, well, this is really what it's about. You know, he might not be actively kind of doing negative stuff, but just the fact that he's programming, right?
yes,
Already
good
he's
point.
programming. His subtle programming
Yes.
won't allow him to stand up for what's right and true. Now, that again is very much Matrix. That's very much been caught up in the Matrix. This is another example because we speak about, and we're going to definitely go more into this in future shows, guys, that hive mentality, right? Reversed. We're not talking about in its fully operational, beautiful, glorious state as it should be, but we're talking about it reversed, which is really what the Matrix is.
Yes.
Right.
You said something so important. If I may just interject, I'm sorry, Johnny, you got me so fired on Wired on this one. It was so perfectly said. You're right.
Cool.
The pastors I run into, thank you for this too. It opened my eyes. The pastors I run into often, they're not out for nefarious. They're not out to cause harm. They're just focused on themselves. And so being focused on themselves, they're out of the game. They're out of the game. They're not going to make a difference. They're out of the game. They want women to like them, or if it's men, sometimes too. They want them to like them, sometimes children. But the thing is, they're not focused on an agenda. They're focused on it's about me. It's about me. And that means they need to be taught to mature, to grow up, and learn that it's not all about you. The best phrase you can say to these pastors, it's not about you. Well, I'm a pastor. Yeah. No, it's not about you. Well, my people depend on me. No, they don't. You're to minister to them. You're to minister to them. Humble yourself and minister to them. In fact, it'd be better if you weren't standing up on a pulpit. Why are you up high? What is that? So people can see you? We can see you. You can be on a step and we can see you. Why should you be up high? You know, what's that saying?
Or sit in a circle with them. You know?
Yeah, go out in the yard. Yeah, that's it. You know, and when you work with pastors like I do, when you get behind the doors, like I said, and hear what they're really talking about, it's not about when they talk about congregation, that doesn't come up first. That does not come up at all. When I've been behind the closed doors, I'm hearing about the income, what women say to them. They always throw that in. I know why. Why are you doing that to me? Why is the locker room talk coming in every time? It's always about, the women always hit on me when they're in the house. You know, it's just, what are you telling me? Where is it that you're going to talk about? When is the point of our conversation, pastors? Are you going to talk about your congregation, their needs, and about them, and take the eyes off yourself? The celebrity Hollywood disease has taken hold and reduced many, many pastors to children in diapers. And I'm sorry. And that's what I was told. My calling is that I was told that a lot of the clergy throughout all kinds of faiths are not going to like me for bringing forward the message. They're not going to like it. And they're not going to want me up here to their congregation. Why? Because it would affect their popularity. The biggest problem.
Okay, so let's see how this can be flipped. Because now we know that, and I think everyone who watches this channel is pretty much blue-pilled in the sense that we understand lots of things have been corrupted, etc. Right? We understand that in order for these people to operate and gain control of the planet, there's a couple of things they have to have control of. Churches, governments, the judicial system, right? Name but three. Obviously a couple, the banking system as well. So, and of course technology. Churches would be one of the big ones, that because we understand that's where a lot of the SRA occurs. And we understand, I mean, if you're just looking at the Catholic Church, the audition room, it looks like the eyes of the serpent. We understand the Catholic Church is far from peachy clean, but that doesn't mean that all Catholic churches are that way, right? So they often be used for these things as covers. So now that we understand that this is happening, and that the churches are one of the main places where these predators get people. I always say the church is the infiltrator, right? The church hasn't been infiltrated.
Mm-hmm.
The church has infiltrated the people.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion. What the church has done. I don't know. Sorry, I look like my internet's gone wonky there.
Oh, they wouldn't like that one. They wouldn't like that said. So yeah, this is the kind of thing they do. But
so that's why I say, so the church has infiltrated the people, in my opinion, you know, and indoctrinated them with a lot of crap. And that has nothing to do with God's word or Jesus or whatever, because when we're looking at things in its authentic truth, there's no need to war or fight over it, right?
right.
So now we look at the church and how it's indoctrinated people over the centuries, literally. We understand this now, and we understand that even though the pastors or the preachers might not be evil per se,
Right.
in their ignorance, they are perpetuating a cycle. So how do we turn that around? Do we no longer use the church as a body? Because I think the body of the church, that meeting place for Christian people, is very important. For anyone meeting spiritually is a very important thing. But how do we gain our power back from that by turning it around? Let's say with the churches specifically.
No problem. It's so simple. That's the thing. It's so simple. God leads the way. He really does. And it's like this whole writing was give glory to God. And it spelled everything out. How many people feel that this work changed the world and the way it thinks? It inputted it, right? In this, the church is being used by the state with a character named Dooley. Represents Robertson in this case, from my experience. And so they're being used. And it talks about getting their funding up and twisting the people and making them fear and turn to them and look to them and stuff like that. It shows it. But the church is a wondrous thing that can be used for great good, just as the state can be used for good, just as Disney can be used for good. It depends on who's steering the ship. And so God's smart. He knows what he's doing. God is smart. And your audience is smart too, by the way. I saw this thing about, just wash their feet. Yep, Melody has a good point. It's like down right along the line. I appreciate the one from Bets Davis that people stood up and mentioned my name. Thank you. Big red heart shape on that one. Thank you. Thank you.
Wait, I want to actually thank you, Bets. I want to just read this one out, which was great. Hello, Tom. Sophia Stewart was on a podcast this week claiming to be the author of The Matrix. So many people called out and mentioned your name. Red face, red heart shape. Bets, if you have a link to that interview, I'd love to see it. If you can post it in the comment.
Yes.
If possible, I'd like to see that. I think it'd be a good one to have a look at so we can even check out.
Absolutely, because I'm going to go to your point, but I also want to address what Beth's brought up too. Someone was saying today on a comment to me, who cares what colors it is? Who cares about the red pill, blue pill thing? Because I tried to start this blue pill movement or blue movement, which, colors throughout history have been used. Flags are important for gathering nations, they think. Symbol of fish for a Christian community back when it started, the fish symbol. Symbols are important. It allows people to focus in and make a movement that they can identify with very rapidly and spread easily. So the idea of the red pill was bad, the blue pill is good, is important. It's scaring the trash out of the other side. It really is, because they don't know what to do with that. It turns around that they are the ones that took the work, and the message can be restored. So if you say you're blue pilled now, even though we don't take the pills, that scares them, because it means that you've woken up to, or not woken up. Forget that phrase. It means that we're getting it, and they know we're getting it. So when you say you're blue pilled, it means, okay, I stand with the author, that it's his work. And the author, what I felt led to do was open the door to others to be heard. Again, not about Tom. This is your work. It's given to me for you, so you have a better door. It happened to be that, what did the Wachowskis do with it? Stuck my high school, my birthday, my fiance's birthday, and all that in the first graphic. Now, I say that a lot, but I need to say it again, because that means they screwed up. The other side screwed up and made it so we now have a better vehicle so you can be heard. See? So they're afraid of the blue pill idea, because it means that we're a group going to be heard. Each of our stories, that's how we're going to change the world. Not Tom Althouse's story, but each of our stories will be heard because they opened a door to Tom Althouse when they stole Tom Althouse's work, which is actually God's work. And everything's in here. And they're imitating this and they're blown away by it still. 190 new concepts and all the tech, including Neuralink, that's not supposed to be done. So what I'm saying is the churches should be very excited about this. I'm saying the pastors get up there and talk about the Matrix, but they don't know what they're doing. They're helping the other side. The other side laughs at that. But they feel important and popular because they're identifying with the youth and others in their congregation who grew up with it, and they're going to go like, oh, wow, he's talking about the Matrix. What a cool pastor. Pastor Marks, nice to meet you. But the thing is that it's actually about the message, and the real message is from God. The real message is, I received it, that he's given us a key so we all can be heard. And if we do this in a nicely coordinated manner, where we each take our turn, which I am guilty of stepping on you all the time, Shanti, during interviews, because I get excited and I want to say something, I know. But when we do it in a coordinated method, which I am learning, we are going to reach a world. We're going to reach a world, you know, and with our passion, with our belief, we're going to show them we care about them. Keep in mind, too, whenever we condemn them, and when I'm saying like unjustly just fire away insults, right? What we're doing here is pointing out the truth, and I'm so glad you brought the thing about Sophia Stewart up. God, thank you. But when we just throw empty insults, we're in their game. We're playing their game. The narcissists are going to win their game. That's their field. But we don't engage them like that, and we just bring forward the hard, cold truth, they slink away because a narcissist is insecure, and their feeling is they want to be superior. And if they can't be superior, they slink away. That's how you get rid of a narcissist. I've been learning this. So yeah, learning it firsthand. It's working. So hard, cold truths coordinated between us. We open the door with whichever key works. And here is a key. They gave us the key because of how they responded to it. And it fits with Sophia Stewart's responses. And people responding to her, as you pointed out, that's so refreshing, means that this key is turning and it's meant for everyone.
I love that. I mean, I would be interested to know how she responded to that, if she responded at all. I love that, Bits. And she's also ex-South African. Ooh, nice one. Nice one. Living in the UK. Oh, no.
Oh, you guys are great. Your audience is great too. Like I said about Tom's comedian, I was a comedian. Yeah, I was a stand-up kind of guy. But the thing is that I can be myself here with you guys. Out there, I'm under fire all the time. But me, you can see who I am. And it's like, I love being seen when I can see who you are and others are. And it's so nice to have this time together in this kind of circle, which is so nice because out there, I was asked the question, you know, one time someone said, he seems angry. My response was, if your 2 children were murdered, you're told they're murdered, your intellectual property that was meant to change the world was taken, and you're being called by your sister on the death of your son, not given condolences, but told you have to say you're suicidal, bipolar, and angry. The other side's using that angry card. I think I realized too, I should go ahead and show what I feel. If I'm angry I think it's justified to feel angry, and I should feel angry about what happened and what's happening to children and elderly and everybody else. So I'm going to be honest with my feelings instead of trying to shut them down. So I'm working on letting my anger be displayed in how I feel, which is a intellectual style anger. It's like, I am not happy about what happened to my children. It's not right. I don't want it to happen to other children. And if my face looks a little more serious, that would fit because I've got to get this job done and I got to get it done right. And I cannot suffer fools and I cannot suffer the other side getting away with it when they've handed us the key to changing it all. So the more this is like shown and spread that this is the key in the original work, it's copyrighted. This is the date before the Matrix. This isn't about Tom Althouse. This is about, we've got them. They've said we've got them. This is what they fear. One of the most things they fear, biggest things they fear, is that we have the copyright. And I mean, we all, because you're all going to own this when I'm done. We hold the copyright to what precedes the Matrix by the year when it's shot in 1999. We hold it. They don't have a copyright in the Matrix. We hold the keys. And you said, how can we turn around the church? Back to it. Right there. Because all the pastors are drunk on the Matrix, basically. On the wrong one. So watch what happens. Now, here's the deal. I have not been invited once, Tom Althouse, to speak in a church, even when the pastor sees the evidence. But watch what happens when it becomes popular that this author wrote the work, right? And with shows like you and teaming up with you, Shanti, doing great work, educating, and your wonderful, enlightening programs. It's like, and the things we're going to do in South Africa together when I'm there. The thing is that, and when I'm not there even, but the thing is, the pastors are then going to say in mass, Tom Althouse, can you come to my church and speak? And you know what my answer is going to be? No, I will not come now. Because you're in the Hollywood system. You're illustrating it right now. You're asking me to come, Pastor Marks. I'm just making that name up as fun because I'm drawing back on the joke. Pastor Marks, I'm not going to come because now it's popular for me to come to your church, for you to have me there. I'm not coming. You should have had me there when it mattered, when it was important for the kids, when it was important for the elderly. I'm not coming for your image. I'm coming when it matters. If you want to have this shown, do it before it's popular. Have me speak at your church. The challenge to any pastor out there, and you as listening, put it to your pastor. I will come and speak at any church on what this means, the evidence, and what God had message in here about Christ's glory, which they took out, keeping the same ending at the end, replacing Christ with Neo. I will speak about it before it's popular, and your pastor will be part of the documentary probably. He'll be known for having done this. See? So if it's before we're out there and popular with documentary done, I'll come. If you're too late, sort of like what Christ's message is in the Bible, the door's shut. I'm not coming. I'm going to minister to others because you didn't minister to your own. So if the pastor makes a choice now, so you know what I'm saying? It's a challenge. It's a challenge. Bring me in when it's not popular. I'll speak. When I'm popular, I'm not coming. There you go.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's so true because, it's always easier when the pathways are open, the doors are open, the gates are open, and someone had to figure out the combination. Someone had to figure out the way there. Someone had to have, sort of say, come guys, let's try this way. That's not working. Come, I've got an idea. I've got an intuition. Do it like this, No, you're crazy, So it's got to be those people, they've got to be those initiators, those trailblazers who are willing to put their heads on the block to sort of say, okay, I'm prepared to sacrifice my reputation, what I believe is true, And when we do that, it's like we unlock the key of our own heart. Mm-hmm. And when our own heart opens up, God just opens up so much more for us anyway. But we have to be brave because that is actually showing courage. That is actually showing bravery, right? That is showing the true essence of your spirit that is no longer prepared to live a lie and to perpetuate and to enable the lie anymore just by simply not standing up for the truth. Because if you don't stand up for the truth, if you know better, obviously if you don't know better, that's a different story. But once you start questioning, once you start getting information, once you start like, hey, something's up here, you need to start questioning. That's how that we start turning the tide, right? So, and it's going to be those that then carve out the new pathways, the new highways, so to speak, that enable us to move to the new consciousness, the raised frequency.
Right. Well, that's the thing. I am now me at my frequency because I got the narcissist out of my life. If you're an empathetic person, what I noticed about you right away, Shanti, when I met you, was that you were genuine, absolutely genuine. That punches my ticket. That makes me go, I want to hang with this person. The people that are genuine, what I call the remnant in the work, I was given to call the remnant in the work, the scattered people that have actual hearts. The narcissist preys upon genuine, empathetic people because they can employ you because you draw people for their purposes of feeling superior and also covering their insecurities. That's what a narcissist is operating on. So don't wonder they're trying to call me a narcissist because a narcissist will project on you what they are. That's what they do. So when you get them out of your life, the narcissist out of your life, you get to be yourself at your own energy frequency and who you really are. And it's amazing. If you have the narcissist in your life, you're always on a tug and pull to compromise your own core value of how you present yourself because they will not tolerate you being genuinely upfront and being yourself and empathetic. They want all eyes on them. All eyes on them. So, and it goes back to that whole thing about the pastors in the church. So what's interesting is you can tell when someone comes up to you if they're the genuine article by the way they respond to your compliments. Hear me on this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have your test compliment, right? Watch their reaction. You'll see it. You have the faculties to do it, people. It's like, or friends, watch how they respond. So if you come up to a person like the fictitious Pastor Marks, we'll just use that character, and you say, oh, it's such a pleasure. You look great today. Thank you. I get it all the time. Or, you know, something like it's a feeling you'll get back. You'll get this feeling of, you get this feeling of they expect it, they anticipate it, they need it, they want it, they have to have it. That's their core. If you come up to a person that is actually genuinely empathetic and working on what they need to do with empathy and dedicated to their cause, they're focused on their work, not all eyes on me. So when you come up to a person like that and say, you're looking really good today, that person's so focused on the work with the empathy involved, which makes the work fly and connects with people, that their response will not be that fictitious character's response. They'll be more like, well, thank you, so do you. And you look great too. And listen, you know, what we're working on, they get right to it. They're not empowered or swayed away by the compliment. So a compliment's a good testing of your oars on the person. It's a good testing of the ship. You test to see if the ship is sound. So go up, you can lead off with a compliment. Go up to somebody you're not sure and they claim to be some leader and leading the way. Give them a compliment. See their response. That's what I've learned. And I want you to try it out. Anybody out there, try it out and see what you get back. And like I said, if you get this back, if you say, you look good today, you look great too. It's nice to meet you. If they put it right back to you and are right back to who you are and to the work being done, that's a minister who's serving his congregation and is looking forward to how he can help you too. That's doing the work of God.
Absolutely.
The other way is work for himself. He's doing the work for his own self, which is the work for Satan. Sorry to say. So take the spotlights off the pulpit, bring it down to earth, take the diapers off the pastor, if they're one of the other ones, Pastor Mark's, and take their diapers off and let them wear the big boy pants and serve their congregation. And when you see them take a compliment and they start to go like this, you look good today, Pastor Marks, especially in closed doors. If you're a pretty woman, that's what they always talk to me about, pretty women. Give them a compliment, see how they respond. If they pass your test and they do it right, God bless your congregation, God bless your church, you're heading on the right track. If they talk about how they say they hear that all the time, they're fishing for your adoration and maybe something even evil in the end, which is going to put your morals at test. So you don't need that. None of us need that. Put the narcissist back in the box and let's have the empathetic people lead. And we will change this world easily. Back to your question, how do we change this? Just let the good people lead. In the church structure, it's one of the easiest ways for wannabe actors to rise. Believe me, I succeeded at what I did performance-wise. I got many rewards and I've met many wannabes. Many wannabes end up in the church because they can become the actor from the pulpit. And I kid you not. And so they can succeed at acting through that market, through that platform. Think of it. One of the easiest ways to rise if you need superiority or need importance is through the church structure, which is following the Hollywood structure. Almost went Smith there for a moment. Do you see what I'm saying? What happens is you have this idea that I can become a deacon simply through how I play my personality, not through my credentials, simply through how I play myself on you. And narcissists are the best at that game. I'll be myself. I won't be a deacon because I won't rise up in many of these churches because I'll be saying as it is because I want to help the kids and help the elderly. And that, when you look at the real face of the pastor that hears that, I could lose my job. That's what it comes down to. They're afraid of losing their popularity, afraid of losing their numbers, and that's not what it's about. They're to be ministering to you. Call them on it, make sure they do it. Take their diapers off, make sure they are ministering to your congregation. It's not a popularity contest. It's not Hollywood. And we have the keys to the kingdom. We have the keys to changing everything. This came after I was disciplined. I didn't write it till I went through a disciplinary process where I had to get rid of all ego, and it's possible. Forget Freud. It's possible. Whole psych system based on that, by the way. It's possible. How about a psych system based on it's possible to get rid of your ego? You don't need it. I heard a psych person tell me that when you see a person, they said, they had a seminar I watched, and it said a psych person said, what actually happens is your lizard center engages. When you see a woman, you actually go, can I eat her? Can I use her? Can I sleep with her? What? That's what you think? That's what you believe? That's what your field teaches? When I see a woman, I think, is she genuine? What is she as a person? Is she dealing with things? How is she? And I see Shanti, and I see a genuine person. I see Jesse. I see others. I said, I want to work with them. I want to work with these people. And I stand with them. I don't go, here's Shanti. Can I eat her? Can I sleep with her? Can I own her? Should she serve me? What the hell? And that's the psych field and a lot of these pastors.
Yeah.
You think there's a problem at home? Is something smelling rotten in Denmark? There is. And if we can laugh our way to a solution, let's laugh our way to a solution. If we can cry our way to a solution, let's shed the tears. If we can save the kids by writing a piece and letting people know they're actually blue, not red, let's do it. It matters. Whatever it takes, let's get the path righted. Let's get rid of the huggies. And let's put the big boy pants on the pastors. And let's call them on it. If you're going to stand in that pulpit, minister to your congregation. If you're going to get in behind closed doors, don't tell us about the women hitting on you. We don't care. And if you care about that, leave the job and get a real job, because you're making yours a farce. And that's not the purpose of the church.
I'm sure most of the time they're probably just having illusions of grandeur anyway. They probably want the woman to hit on them. Most of the time it's probably not happening. It's just
right.
Like I'm not saying it doesn't ever happen, but I mean, usually these guys have these lovely fisherman stories. You know, the fish I caught was this big.
Right. And there's a comment here. And there's a comment. I want to address it definitely, and I want to not negate it at all. So I'm going to honor what the person's saying. It says, I politely disagree, which is nice. Ego has a purpose too. It's all about balance with everything. I agree that it's all about balance, but for me, for my work, ego is not a part of my life. So we can agree that for Tom Althouse, ego is not there. It's not there. And that's what I was taught before I could write the work, was the ego had to go. So I'm going to be teaching people to get rid of the ego, because that really is what's been instilled and programmed into us. If people need an ego model in their lives, I'm not going to go against that. But for me, I am egoless, and I will stand on that. I know who Tom Althouse is. It had to be a work that changed the world, had to come from no ego. And it's interesting they keep trying to say you're a narcissist because they're trying to say the opposite of who you are. So I'm to deal with narcissists, I'm to do it without an ego. So it's possible not to have an ego. If people need an ego, go ahead. But really, Freud is the one that was pushing the ego thing. And there was a whole bunch of things he was pushing with that. And for me, for my children, no ego. No, we don't need it. We can do it with genuine empathy, can replace ego. And genuine empathy is very powerful. Huggy sponsors churches, love it. So I hope that helps. So I'm not here to disagree. I'm here to say for my life, there is no ego, and I'd ask you to honor that. Thank you. Good guy.
I love the sorry melody. I'm not sure if you're joking here or not, but I had to put that up.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
If Aggie sponsors churches, it's very, very appropriate.
Yeah. And also, I want to honor the other thing too, because I did kind of take that on strong. Yes, we can define that's very important. Let's define what ego is. I love it. I'd love to hear your definition of what ego is, because yes, it can be defined into a clinical terms and things like that. So you're absolutely right. Let me just say that ego for me is a sense of self-absorption, the protective side, where you try to protect yourself with this ego that's supposed to be the shield, and you use that to identify as a need to how to interact with people. Anyway, very good. But Shanti, you're right. I love the comment with the huggies. I love it. That definitely lightens it up. But as far as Layla, I look forward to your definition. So I do.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I mean, and yeah, I think, bottom line is, when we're talking about the churches and stuff, I really think at the end of the day, the body of Christ, I understand what it is, obviously, in the church understanding. For me, your body is the body that houses Christ's energy, the Christ consciousness energy, and the Holy Spirit. And when you are looking after yourself, your body, your spirit, your emotions, you are looking after the body of Christ in that way. So you are then automatically in that place of receiving the message and the blessings from Christ, God, Jesus. And when you receive it, people can't help but notice it around you. And that's not coming from an egoic sense. It's coming from a sense of you light up a room when you walk in. You know, it's like one candle lighting a million others. One candle can light an infinite amount of candles just by
Mhm,
lighting itself,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
And it
mhm.
costs you nothing. So you literally go in, your energy it speaks for itself. And then that ego that becomes me in the narcissistic way, when we've understood it on a higher level, when we understand our purpose here is for us to be happy and content within ourselves and have a sense of peace. Because if you are not feeling good within yourself and have a good self-image of who you are, you cannot do God's work. I'm sorry, I don't care what anyone else says. And it
Right.
goes way beyond physical desires. You then realize with a sense of humility that you are of service to God. So that egoic mind then transmutes itself or alchemizes itself, as I like to call it, as a
Mhm,
spiritual alchemist,
mhm.
into the mind of God, so to speak, where you are now connected with God's thoughts, God's ideas, God's desires for you. And you are willing to serve in that way.
Mhm.
But you now realize it's not, as I said, an egoic thing. It's something that's very humbling, but extremely empowering at the
Right.
same time. And you are not living in poverty, because when your love and your heart is abundant, you also therefore attract abundance into your life. So you attract money, you attract a beautiful home, you attract a car that you can drive around in, you attract nice clothes if you want them. But the difference is they do not define you. It's a means to an end for you, right? We need a home, a house to live in. We need cars to get from A to B or whatever it might be at this point in time. So obviously we're going to use what is given to us at this point in time. It'd be stupid not to.
Mhm.
But the intention behind how we go about that is everything. It's always the intention, always the intention. That's what
Right.
I'm saying.
You raised
It's
something so
time.
important too with that I love the flow of how we're designed to receive creativity and messages. Like I said, they hate when I hold this up, so I hold it up all the time. So this whole thing was a flow that just came through, just like, like a download, just writing as I went and getting it, and it came through forward like to 128 pages, 122 at first, then 128. I was just like, wow, exactly. In Hollywood, it's a minute a page. So what you just did prompted another flow. And that's why it's so beautiful, like you taught me about the still, calm, peaceful place. When you're free of the effects of the other side. That's why I look like this right now instead of like, oh, you got to do this, you got to do this now, you got to do it now. It's like now I'm like, you need to do this, and I'll even throw in the jokes and things. But it's like that you've got to have that peaceful, centered place. Otherwise, you burden your audience with trying to get through the trauma aspects to get the message. And this way you just get the message, and maybe can fund too. So that peaceful centering is so important, getting that frequency and energy properly situated. But you gave me this idea of in the future, they've been Hollywood and the agencies have been trying to destroy the family structure. That's what came up. That was their big think tank solution, was destroy family structure. That's why you'll see all these other topics in line with it. Destroy family structure in order to control every person. How do you control people if they're part of a really cohesive, loving family that solve problems together and elevate together? How do you do it? You have to destroy that cohesiveness, turn them on each other. And so I see in the future a healing process, and I can even put this into a screenplay, where in the future you'll have the Hawaiian model starting to enter in, where Ohanas will be forming, I believe. And it's back almost to a village mentality, but I believe we're going to see intellectuals forming Ohanas. Now, what I mean is families that connect together energetically and that have different disciplines, cross disciplines, and talents will come together to help their families. So you'll have family units. Think of 5 huts in a circle. That's just the image of the model. 5 families coming together to be a joint family group unit that the car can be repaired, the financials can be handled, attorney situation, we have a doctor there. You are a survivable unit until the world rights itself. And your children are taken care of. We have people, caretakers, all this stuff. Everybody has their talents applied. We're going to go back to a village mentality, I believe, this writer, this visionary person, believes that we're going to head back to at least some places, some countries, some bodies of groups, intellectuals especially, are going to start forming family groupings where they can take care of their problems until the world becomes a sensible place again, where the world becomes a survivable place again. We'll create bubbles of safety, community, survivability, which will serve as a model when everything resets in a good way, not the bad way, to repopulate the world in a perfected, a genuine model, a model where people are free to be families and a family apart from a twisted world and pushed agendas. Does that make sense? I think that's going to be part of the healing tactic when you say what was going to change things. When it gets real severe in the one world order, that's what you're going to find, I believe, is going to be the salve. It's going to be this kind of grouping. And it works in Hawaii. It works very, very well. In fact, I was wanting to join an ohana on Maui, where there was different artists and different doctors and stuff that wanted to form. We would buy land together, a large group of land. We'd have our own domiciles on it, our own family domiciles, and then we'd be there for each other if needed. And our kids would have sitters and everything else, and we'd be able to go on. Make sense? Not a cult. It's just a survival tactic.
Absolutely. And I think that's that's happening more and more here now. It's like people going off the grid. There's a lot of people actually buying, let's say, big properties and building houses, on the properties, different families living there. And they're cooking, they're baking, they're doing whatever,
Right.
making clothes, and they support each other, and they're off the grid, which
That's
is
right.
really what more and more of us have to start doing, is just getting off this grid of theirs.
Yeah, and I love the comments too. They're supporting what we're talking about. Thank you for doing that and understanding. Because the village model, as I studied sociology and things like that, and what I do is I extrapolate and throw a lot out that they tell me. But the thing is that the village model seems to be the most successful model of human governance, which governance isn't really needed that much, because every person matters in that community when it comes down to it, and every person is approachable and accessible in that community, and so therefore everybody feels like they have a part, integral part. Even the children, even the elderly, are embraced in that circle, in that village mentality. It's the best model we've ever had, as throughout John Locke and others have sought for, what utopias are. We're not saying it's utopia, but it's the best model where everybody can have a matter and not be discarded, and be part of
Absolutely.
a well-functioning society. So I appreciate these comments very much, very much. I'm glad we're able to present this without what? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on the comments as
I'm trying
well.
to honor them. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, nice to
So
see
this
you
is
guys
great.
in there.
Glad. And you brought that up. You brought that up by sparking that into me. And that's what happens if people are wondering about creativity and you have those classes, you'll be coming up with creativity and stuff like that, and how to free, and allowing me to free to talk about it. It's like, this is part of that. This is part of the freeing process. And these structures, like these kind of communities, actually allow creativity to foster and thrive. Because when you
Yeah,
do feel you have a voice and you're integral to that community, and your talking sparked that from me. Your talking sparked that for me in this community right here. So I look forward to teaching with you, because it's gonna be fun.
absolutely. But isn't that lovely? Isn't that amazing? Because that's really what the creative process is about, and that's how we collaborate, right? Is
Mhm.
that we sit and we, in the corporate industry, they might call it brainstorming. Just as you say, something that a word I might have said triggered, and as you say, sparked something in you to open up another doorway in your mind. You will say things to me that create that in me, and often in the viewers, and that's how we kind of create, and we co-create with each other in a beautiful, constructive way. And I've got to tell you guys, I'm super excited about the stuff that we're going to be offering you guys in the
Mhm.
future.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
there's going to be some really nice work that Tom and I are planning. We're working on
Absolutely.
accessing your creative genius. But, in order to really do that, we've got to just flip things around. So these talks here at the moment are kind of preparing us in many ways,
Absolutely.
just to open up our minds, and we're going to start seeing things differently very soon.
And
Yeah.
your audience is just so stellar. They're amazing, because they're educating us at the same time while we're trying to relay what we have. And that's the shared system that's supposed to happen. And one of the things that just raised up that I was thinking about, Jan's putting out, was it Jan here? You know, Kim too. Kim, about the elderly. I'd love to talk sometime about the plight of the elderly. It's so important. So important.
Well, we can do that next week. We can certainly do that next week. In fact, I'll make a note. We'll talk about the plight of the elderly because it's so true. You know,
It's become big business to exploit the elderly and and put them in nursing homes, take their stuff, and families have been encouraged to do that. It's another way to divide the family and destroy the family. When the elderly are there with the wisdom to convey to the family unit, it's so important. Yeah. So,
and even if you know the way I see that, even if you have got young children in the home, and granny or grandpa is living their last few months, and even if they are battling with health and stuff, and you know, many people say, well, I don't want my kids seeing that. I think it's so important that our children can see that, you know, that you know, because life is a cycle. Because when we look at our old people again, many of them will go back to being babies again, right? They often are back in diapers. They are needing to be cared for, beautiful, you know, so they rely on us a lot.
yes.
Right. So I think it is important if we have, and I agree with what you're saying, you know, I mean, just this weekend when I was back in my hometown, we went to pay a visit to one of our classmates' parents, because one of our classmates passed away a year ago. So her parents are still there. I got to tell you, this is the most beautiful little town that I went to school in. It is really, really, really gorgeous. And they've got the most beautiful little old age village there, little garden little garden cottages, you know, that sort of thing. And you know what's really nice about that, though, I've got to tell you, because we come from the small community, is that the old people in these old age homes now are all our parents, right? All my school friends, it's their parents next door to each other, living their best lives. They've known each other their whole lives, right? We, at the age we're at now, we kind of like taking care of them and making sure, you know, we're starting to look out for them. Although my mom is not there, you know, I'm just saying it's what I noticed.
Right.
In a situation like that, I think it's actually what I saw there was beautiful, because it's their own little community, and all the children go and visit everyone's granny and grandpa or mom and dad or whatever it is. In that way, what I saw there was very beautiful. But also at the end of the day, what I've also seen many times is how these old people are abandoned, right? And they're left there, and their kids have left the country, and they're left in a little room.
No stimulation. No joy. That's the thing. I see the elderly often as holding gifts. They're at that time in their life ready to give their gifts. They want to give gifts of knowledge, wisdom, stories, and no one wants to hear it. They're only interested in their finances, which is a lot in this country, how it's been. And so that's why I said I want to gather stories from elderly that are shut away. I want their stories that they know their stories will be told, that we get a library of memories, library of stories, that they're going to always have their story out there. I want to gather them, especially those that are shut away in rooms. I want them to know their story is going to be known, because they're at that point. They want to share their story. They need to share that gift, you know?
I love what you're saying there. Gathering stories from the elderly. And what I want to say is we actually make this part of this channel's mission statement, or I don't want to say mission statement. And I want to say, like, to all our viewers out there as well, I want to challenge you guys at this point as well to go and gather a story from an old person.
And program. Oh my God, yes. And when I'm over there with you, let's do it. Let's go. And if we have permission if they allow us to talk to them, let's specifically also start with those that have no family around them. I know they have a story to tell. Let's get their story. Oh my God, this hits me hard. Let's do it. And like you said, if there's listeners,
you see, guys, Tom and I collaborating live on air. This is usually be the stuff we're talking about in private meetings. We're just having a private meeting with you on air.
Yes, and I want to back up too. I mean, that has to be done. That's so great. And I want to back up. If you can read people, I'm going to say about reading people. If you saw my eyes change while we were talking, if you go back, you'll see it where they look almost sad or about to cry or teary. It's because you can read when people are genuine, empathetic, like we all are. You can see when a thought hits us. And that's what you'll look for. A narcissist, you won't see that. Narcissist always has a mask, basically, you know, in tactics. But you'll be able to read on a genuine person. This goes for the topic of pastors. You'll be able to see when they're actually, the mask is off and the real person's there. And a note for pastors, when you go to your congregation, show the real you. To heck with, damn the torpedoes, forget the insults, forget what it can do to your numbers. Be the real person. More than a profession, it's a ministry. It's to minister to your congregation. So be genuine with them. Let them see the genuine, especially children are going to see it. If you're being genuine or you're being false, you're turning off future generations from the church just by your choice of presenting yourself. If you're going to wear the mask to be the fictitious Pastor Marks. Great to meet you.
Reach Love, I just wanted to put your 1010 up there because 10 is my number, and 10 is a very powerful number, and that was obviously said. Yeah. I think you put it up there because it was obviously said, came up at the time that we were discussing this, so I had to pop that up there. Yes, very powerful. You know, yeah. Always getting the signs from God. God speaks to us in so many beautiful ways. Layla, right. Co-creation in action. Yeah. So it's really cool to be co-creating with you guys. Yeah, so it's awesome.
Layla, Bets, Jan, Mary, all you guys. It's so great, and it's right. I mean, the thing Jan just said about people that work in nursing homes have stories. Yes. Give them an outlet and let these people tell them. It's about stories. Hollywood says over and over again, and the agencies too, it's the stories that make the difference. It's the stories that make great leaders. It's the stories that change the course of human events. It's the stories that bring us together. It's the stories way back in time where they sat around the fire with oral traditions. It's the stories that change the world. And our elderly have stories to tell, and we will not deprive them from telling the stories that they need to tell. We're going to open those doors. Thank you, all of you.
And we're going to, definitely. I'm already, my mind is already clicking. I'm writing things down, which I will discuss with you after the show, Tom. I love that. And Betsy says, I have diaries from my dad during the war years. Absolutely wonderful. And you know what? I've got letters from my grandfather. He was a prisoner of war. While he was a prisoner of war, that he wrote to my grandmother, and my mom's got those letters. I think that is just incredible. Guys, we're going to definitely do stuff with this. It's like, someone's got diaries from her dad. Another one was saying, yeah, sorry, people at nursing homes, you're right. And I think it's just amazing. You know, there's people who've got stories, and I would love to hear these stories. So if you guys can collect a story from an old person, that'll be first prize. Wow.
Yes. And there was a comment about the 333. I think Melody did, and yes, that's very important. The numerology is really big. Just to honor what you're saying, and it's in the first graphic, even the 380, which means after they have my dates and everything, to take person's worldly possessions to help them prepare for their death. So these numbers are showing up. When I was put away, handled by SWAT team, when they said, "Oh, he thinks he wrote the Matrix," he thinks he wrote the Immortals, and was put away for that. They put me in room 303, Trinity's room. So these numbers are very important on the other side. So noting the numbers is important. It is important.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but thank you for what you're doing with the elderly situation. I love it. It could be a show by itself, just shows on elderly stories. Oh my God, how beautiful. This is great, Jeff.
Yeah. Guys, get it going so far. I'd love each of you watching this. And if you have someone who had either passed or present, or past as in left the earth, and I would love to honor those people as well, and I'm sure Tom, you would too.
Oh, absolutely.
Or if you have current people, and even if we have old people who want to come onto the show and tell their stories, wow, what a blessing that would be to hear their stories.
Great to reach them in their rooms. In those rooms, go to those rooms which are meant to be tombs and open it up and let them speak. Let them have that. Imagine being shut away in a room and not having my voice to give the message. Shut away like this and knowing this is going on and everything else and being taken and twisted. Let's put the voice back. Let's give it back to those that were shut away. Absolutely, Shanti. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Indeed. Wow. another productive day. Isn't that wonderful? So guys, watch this space. We're going to be chatting about this more. As you can see, as I said, this is us co-creating
Yeah.
as a tribe.
It's like Layla said,
beautiful.
tribe. I was going to say, Layla said tribe. Yeah, it's tribe. It really is tribe. Well
Yeah,
done. Yeah. Isn't this great? Oh, it's fun to be part of a tribe. All right. Yeah.
absolutely.
It's the creative bottle opener where the creativity just flows.
We're already the creative genius in each person is coming out, and that's really what it is, because
And
the whole thing.
like attracts like, and look at this comment section. So
Exactly.
this is like a slice of
Yeah,
heaven. Thank you, Shanti.
absolutely amazing. Yay.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay, guys, I know you don't want me to say goodbye to Tom, but I have to.
So you guys are great.
Next time, we'll be seeing Tom next Tuesday again. And for what we're going to be doing, then we're going to be talking about the plight of the elderly next week, and chatting to see how we can get those voices, their stories out there. And if they aren't capable of doing it, maybe you can be their voice,
Yes.
for them. And let's tell the world some stories about our
Yes.
beautiful golden citizens who know so much, have been through so much. They're wise. There's one thing, with my child as well. When him and I are arguing, and like recently, and I said to my boy, one thing's always going to be true, and it's never going to change. I'm always going to be 20 plus years older than you. I'm always going to have 20 years more experience than you. I know you don't like it right now, but that's the truth. So when we look at our old people, they're always going to have 20 or 30 years more experience than us. Whether you think they lived their life in an exemplary way or not doesn't matter. I'm getting ideas. I've got some amazing people living on the street here, and I'm talking about. In Africa, we used to see African people living on the street. No, not anymore. There's a lot of white-skinned people living on the street now as well. And one is an ex-cop. I would love to hear his story. Stuff like that. I just think, stories like this are so interesting to get out.
Yes,
and
like
just
what was your greatest moment? What was your most when revelation came to you? What changed your life? It'd be so nice to hear these things rather than where the media will come up to an elderly veteran and go, "What's your political agenda?" Basically, it's like, no, let's hear about what touched you most in your life. What was your most poignant moment? What was, things like that? Be wonderful. What story do you have to share?
Yeah.
Thank you, Shanti, and thank you, everyone. Great.
Indeed. Okay, guys. Well, that's us for tonight, for this morning, this afternoon, wherever you are. And again, I want to say thank you so much to everyone for joining Tom and myself tonight. My voice does sound a lot better, I have to say. Yesterday, I was worried I could hardly even get a word out. Because what happens when you haven't seen your buddies, your school, it's amazing. We were all at boarding school together, and I've known most of them since I'm 9. So we were farm kids. So you go to boarding school, right? And everyone knows you go to boarding school. So you grew up with these kids. And you know them better than your own siblings. You play sport together, you go to school together, you fight, you kill each other, you make up, you love each other, So it's really cool. Really, really good time. Yeah. Love the African vibes. The African vibes are amazing. And I'm from the Karoo. So I was in the Karoo this weekend, and it's just spectacular. It's the desert area. It's our desert area. And it was absolutely amazing. So wonderful, everybody. Love you all, Mad Ali. God bless you all. And then I'm going to say, Tom, is there anything else from you before we end off?
Real quick update. I now have this. And what this is, that's why I was at the church the other day. And what this is means that the intellectual property, Aiden's future, my future, we will be protected from now on. And because we found that the other, like a CIA operative actually had a power of attorney on me. They had snuck it in where they would own all my intellectual property and determine our mental capacities and illness, anything like that. They would determine that. And we found that snuck in. So we now have changed that where we have a family that will safeguard Aiden's future and intellectual property,
Amen.
and they will not absorb it. So we beat them at their own game. So that will fit into the talk of the elderly in the future, is how we can protect them by making sure they are legally protected from having everything just taken and put away. So people they can trust can
That's
also
amazing.
be in charge of them.
That's
So that's the next
very,
topic.
that's beautiful. Really happy to hear that. It really
I'm
seems
thrilled.
that things are opening up now.
That's why if you see a
Awesome.
difference in me, finally, we're not on the run anymore. We're standing strong with a shield and the power of the evidence. So we're going to be fighting for you strong, everybody. We're going to fight for you. We're going to stand strong. I
That's
now have.
incredible.
So yeah, but thank you. Thank you for this
Indeed.
wonderful show and the wonderful company. So thank you.
Indeed. Thank you to our wonderful audience. And on that note, we will say farewell. God bless you all. I'll see you. JC's not here tomorrow, so I'll see you tomorrow with, I think it's Bryce. It's Wednesday. And yes, and again, just a great big thanks to all our amazing Patreons and to you guys who support the channel as well. Really, 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 we appreciate you hugely. So thank you so much, and we'll catch you tomorrow.
Bye.